On the morning of August 27, 1896, a man stood inside a palace. He looked out at the harbor below. 5 British warships stared back. He had no navy, no allies, no real army. Just 2,800 men, a few cannons, and a royal yacht that had never fired a shot. The British had given him 1 hour to surrender. He refused. What followed lasted 38 minutes. This is the story of the shortest war in recorded history. But it is not just a story about a war. It is a story about what happens when one man refuses to bow, and the empire that decided to make an example of him. Zanzibar, 1896. A small island off the eastern coast of Africa. Wealthy, strategic, and deeply contested. For decades, it had been ruled by Omani sultans. They built palaces on the seafront. They controlled the spice trade, and they controlled something else too: the slave trade. Britain had been watching Zanzibar for years, pushing, pressuring, tightening its grip. The British wanted the slave trade gone. The ruling class of Zanzibar did not. In 1890, Britain and Germany signed a treaty. It divided East Africa between them, and it declared Zanzibar a British protectorate. That word protectorate carried a very specific meaning. It meant no new sultan could take power without British approval. That single clause would start a war. August 25, 1896. The Sultan of Zanzibar was dead. His name was Hamad bin Thuwaini. He had been pro-British, cooperative, compliant. The British liked him. He died suddenly, without warning. Some said he was poisoned by his own nephew. It was never proven. But within hours of the Sultan's death, that nephew had moved into the palace. He had declared himself the new Sultan without asking anyone, without British approval. His name was Khalid bin Barghash. He was not a random opportunist. He had tried to seize power before. He had been talked down. He knew the rules. He simply chose to ignore them. To many Zanzibaris, he was a symbol, a man willing to stand up to the British. Around 3,000 people rallied to support him, all of them prepared to fight. The British consul sent an immediate message: stand down or face the consequences. Khalid did not stand down. The British moved fast. 5 warships were positioned in the harbor. 150 Marines and sailors were ready. 900 Zanzibari troops, loyal to Britain, were assembled. Rear Admiral Harry Rawson sent his ultimatum. Clear and simple. Vacate the palace. Surrender your arms. By 9 o'clock on the morning of August 27th, or the ships would open fire. The night before the deadline was eerily quiet. Then, at 8 in the morning, a message arrived from inside the palace. Khalid wanted to negotiate. The British refused. Unless he agreed to the full terms of the ultimatum, there was nothing to discuss. Khalid's reply came quickly. He did not believe the British would actually fire. Inside the palace, his men prepared for battle. Artillery pieces were set up. Machine guns were aimed directly at the British ships. 9 o'clock was coming. Khalid was not moving. He was certain they were bluffing. He was wrong. 9:02 a.m. The bombardment began. British shells hit the palace within seconds. The building caught fire almost immediately. Khalid's artillery was silenced before it could do real damage. His men fired back. The royal yacht, the HHS Glasgow, opened fire on the British flagship. It hit nothing. The British sank the Glasgow in minutes, then sank 2 smaller vessels alongside it. For the next 38 minutes, the palace burned. Around 500 of Khalid's men were killed or wounded. Most of them never left the palace grounds. His artillerymen were essentially wiped out. The British, 1 sailor wounded. At 9:40 a.m., the flag above the palace was shot down. The firing stopped. 38 minutes. That was all it took. Khalid did not stay to surrender. As the shells fell, he slipped out of the palace. He ran to the German consulate nearby. Under diplomatic law, The British could not touch him there. The Germans refused to hand him over. And so Khalid disappeared into exile. He spent years moving between German East Africa, the Seychelles, and the island of St. Helena, the same island where Napoleon had died. He eventually returned to East Africa. He died there in 1927, 31 years after his 38-minute war. Back in Zanzibar, the British had a new sultan installed by afternoon. The same afternoon the war ended. The masts of the sunken Glasgow remained visible above the harbor waterline for the next 18 years. A permanent reminder of what had happened. Looting broke out in the streets. Around 20 more people died. British troops were sent in to restore order. And by evening, it was as if the war had never happened at all. The Anglo-Zanzibar War lasted 38 minutes. It took longer to shell the palace than it took to replace the man inside it. 500 people died because one man believed the British were bluffing. The new sultan was cooperative, compliant, exactly what Britain wanted. Khalid bin Barghash had gambled everything on the belief that no one would actually pull the trigger. History remembered him as the man who started the shortest war ever fought. And the British were back at their desks by lunch.